You know, I'm gonna be honest. I tried really hard to make this video about the positive and negatives of AI villains, and this might be on me and my limited YouTuber brain, but I couldn't really find a lot of bad AI villains. Like, I can talk about some bad AI characters, and I do plan on talking a couple in this video, but I figured I'd do a more character-based video and talk about how you can make an AI character both good and bad. But first, here's a question. What is an AI character?
AI. What's the A stand for?
Artificial.
What's the
Intelligence.
Oh, what was the A again?
Let's move on.
Artificial intelligence, self-aware, sapient. Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. So in this video, we'll be talking about the characters of artificial intelligence. Some good, some bad, what works and what doesn't work. For me. Spoiler warning for the following games and franchises. There's a lot of different AI in games, movies, shows, and what have you, and while I do tend to focus on games, we'll see how far we get into the cyberverse. I'm MangaKamen, and let's go into the veins. I really have to go back in time one day and beat younger me up someday. I honestly regret not having gotten into the Metroid games at a younger age. Damn you, younger me! That being said, I do appreciate a lot of the games. Although granted my first game was Metroid Fusion, and that game has forever scarred me of mysterious footsteps in dark places. But we're not talking about my irrational fears caused by the media that I've consumed in my life. Not yet anyway. Maybe if we get 20k likes on this video, I don't know, maybe I'll show you what scarred me years ago. Rather, we're talking about Mother Brain. So I think I can get what you're thinking. Kamen, this is a giant brain. How the hell is this an AI? I know that a lot of people, when they think of AI, they think of robotic entities or big faces on computer screens. Not so. Mother Brain is still an AI created by the Chozo, who eventually turned on the bird people and joined the space pirates and became their leader. Mother Brain is a rather standard what you can expect from an AI character, especially the more villainous ones. So when you think of evil AI, you tend to think of these artificial beings seeing themselves as superior to that of the organisms due to their limited intellect. Now, there's not really much to say about Mother Brain as a character. The Metroid games are more or less known for their gameplay and main character than the storytelling. And we could go over the manga that was made, but I like to keep to one actual aspect of the media, and sometimes you can never tell how much of an outside material is canon or not, because in one iteration, Mother Brain actually raised Samus to be some weapon for her to use in the future. And if we talk about Captain N,
No, you don't understand! I must have power! I must!
Alright! Vampires rule!
Not that this isn't an interesting concept for AI, and one that has been used in media before, it's hard to really pin down how I feel about Mother Brain as an antagonist. Granted, she's more like the man behind the curtain type of character, being a giant brain in a glass jar and mechanical additions onto it, and then becoming a giant space dinosaur with the power to kill a Metroid, something that is canonically hard to do in the series. I hesitate to say that Mother Brain is a bad example, but I also hesitate to say that she's a good one either. She is effective. She's the big bad. She does show in Super Metroid that she's able to plan ahead, as demonstrated with the monstrous body that she has grafted onto her brain when you defeat her initially. But as a character, there's nothing really there. The thing about AI that makes them compelling to me is that while they are artificial, they also have an odd human side to them. And more often than not, we'll question why they serve such imperfect beings like the more squishy of us humans, and will remove them from the equation when necessary. And to her credit, Mother Brain does do that with the Chozo, and is obviously using the fleshies that are the space pirates to further her goals of taking over the universe. So she's effective, but there's nothing really else for me to consider her to be all that interesting of a character. Well, I guess if some people want to find the thick, mutated cyber dinosaur attractive, I guess that works, but I have my limits on my degeneracy. Kiryu-sama. No, what I'm talking about is character and personality. And again, if you're looking for a semblance of a personality for this character, the manga is the way to go, where she's portrayed as cold and calculating and a chess master of strategy. Hell, even her backstory of being a Chozo AI comes from the manga, I believe, so it's a bit of a toss-up. But in the games, there's nothing really for me to latch onto since she lacks a personality. Which, when you consider that a lot of Metroid's ideas for characterization comes from the more outside sources, and when we get to the more dialogue-based storylines of games,
a favor among us.
Yeah. Look, not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure I kinda wanna talk about Junko and Oshima again, just so I can test out an experiment with the thumbnail, but hey, she still counts as an AI too, so win for me!
When you say support, do you mean I'll make sure you don't suffer when I kill you, or...?
Well, her official moniker in this is Alter Ego Junko, where she was essentially a copy of the original Junko. And honestly, while I have my issues with the actual Junko and the writing of Danganronpa's anime,
Kamakura, yes, queen!
Alter Ego Junko is a completely different character. And to be frank, as an AI character, AE Junko works in the same vein as an AI villain. Granted, it's a bit cheating with this because this AI is based on a human and a pre-existing character, but when you consider the story of Danganronpa 2, where the cast are trapped in a digital world, AE Junko essentially becomes a godlike character. I bring this up because when a lot of AI characters are used, especially in a villainous role, they're often portrayed to be on a stage higher than the original human characters in the media that they're in. This is due to the fact that we as humans are having more and more dependence on our technology. We've got our smartphones, our computers, all the algorithms that seem to dictate what should and shouldn't be shown to YouTube audiences. I see you in the corner there, YouTube bots. I know what you're up to. And if a single AI were to get its own sentience, it'd probably take over the world. Things like Skynet or HAL come to mind from classic films, or even Google's own AI apparently became sentient last year. What about that, huh? It's a usual trope that a lot of AI stories dive into, where they get corrupted or they develop their own ego and superego and question why the hell they're following the orders of inferior apes. It's a bit of a tired trope if you ask me, but I still enjoy it, and it depends on how the trope is used rather than the trope itself. Which is why we get this version of an AI that's based on an actual person, and this is also a tired trope as well. But it stands for the personality and utter batshit insanity that comes from the original Junko and Oshima, and her evil plan is quite different from the usual
all your days are belong to us.
Time for some explanation of the actual plot of Danganronpa 2! So, the remnants of despair are terrorists who followed the original Junko and Oshima and idolized her.
Congratulations! Welcome to the fold! Now you'll all be exactly like Wolf! Doesn't losing somebody you love break your heart?
And they are put into a digital world that has them become their pre-despair-ridden selves. It's a rehabilitation program that essentially has them all on an island, and at the end of the program, their digital personalities will overwrite their current despaired ones. Unfortunately, one of these 16 students decided to upload the AE Junko program into it as well. Eventually, the killing games begin to take place, and every time a new victim is made throughout the program, it essentially creates an empty husk of a body in the real world. As such, AE Junko's plan is to copy herself and upload her personality into the empty bodies of the dead characters. It was a means to effectively revive the insanity that is Junko and Oshima into the real world. Eventually, she would also infiltrate institutions and take over the world, all the while uploading the Junko personality into more and more people. It's a terrifying concept where the AI takes over an actual person's body and overriding their personality. You are no longer you. And if you're a person like Gundam Tanaka, well...
simply listening is acceptable.
That one would just be a waste of a personality. God, I just loved Gundam Tanaka. Well, the mere thought of your personality being overwritten is terrifying. Throw in the fact that AE Junko has the eccentricities of the original Junko and Oshima, and you've got an AI character who, in my opinion, is really effective. Even more so when she essentially instills despair into the remaining survivors after simply telling her their plans. And even pointing out that should they take the one option that can stop her, they essentially revert back to being monsters before they enter into the program. Well, it's a little nasty idea for an AI to take over the world and do it in a more fantastical way, and throw in the personality of the characters, and you've got quite an entertaining villainous character, which is ironically what you want to do with your characters that are more of the robotic kind.
So fucking hopeless!
Which is more than what I can say for...
Hi, my name is David Cage. I just thought there's a few things you should know before you get...
I'm gonna be straight up here. I do not like David Cage or his games. In fact, if you ask me, he's probably a big factor as to why I dislike a lot of writing in a lot of games nowadays. And it doesn't help that I think his games are at best passable or at worst extremely overrated. I do intend on talking about some of David Cage's works later in this channel on this year, but for now we gotta focus on AI characters. And in all honesty, Marcus.
My name is Marcus, and just like you, I was a slave. But then I chose to open my eyes.
To give a brief overview if you're not familiar, Marcus is one of the three main characters in Detroit Become Human that you can play as. He is what you can call a revolutionary for android rights. He also has the ability to turn other androids into deviants, which in an easy, digestible explanation for the sake of time, basically means that the androids gain free will, which unfortunately I will have to bring up later in this section. Now, I think that while Detroit Become Human has a lot of high points and can be entertaining at times, it suffers from a large lack of subtlety due to David Cage's writing habits, and I feel like this is exasperated in Markus's storyline. Some of the biggest issues I have would be the pacing, his personality, and the interactions that he has that are the biggest issues. I'll start with his personality and, lack of one. Especially if you try to go for the peaceful route. Like, you know how there are parallels between Superman and Jesus? Yeah, Markus essentially becomes the Robo-Jesus, and in all honesty, it's boring. And I know we're talking about a machine character, but that to me is the issue. Even as a machine, you need to give your characters a personality. It's ironically what makes the machine into a human, and in turn allows people to latch onto the characters.
And if you want to shine them on, it's hasta la vista, baby.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Now, I'm well aware that there are people who do like Detroit Become Human. I'm not an idiot, most of the time. And I'm sure there are people who did latch onto Markus as a character. And in fact, his opening arc as a character shows him awakening to becoming a deviant with the ability to create art. God, just imagine all that AI art. I can only imagine all the messed up hands that Markus made in his pursuit of this.
Oh my god.
If I had to explain why I think this, it's because his personality and individuality gets absorbed into the idea of being a better future for the androids. He actually starts out as, ironically, the most human of the three playable characters, and when he joins up with Jericho and subsequently becomes a one-dimensional leader, it becomes more like a collective. Again though, this is if you're going for a more peaceful route with Markus. He's also more of a catalyst for the game's events, which isn't a problem, but again, once we get past the part where he's still technically full android, he becomes a bit more robotic, funnily enough. Some people have declared him as a blank slate, and while I don't fully agree with it, it's not helped by the actor's performance.
I miss you, Carl. I miss you so much.
Granted, what doesn't help out is that in the game, the other two characters you can play as are a bit more preferential over Markus. Like for example, Connor is actually a pretty fun character and his dynamic with Hank was some really good chemistry.
Why do they make you look so goofy and give you that weird voice?
CyberLife androids are designed to work harmoniously with humans. Both my appearance and voice were specifically designed to facilitate my integration.
Well, they fucked up.
There isn't really anything like that with Markus, and he can't really play off the other members of Jericho. He also gets the worst love interest in the entire gaming industry, but whatever. It really felt like the writers were more interested in what Markus is fighting for than what the person himself was. Markus essentially has an angel and devil on his shoulder, and he never really extends his character past that. There are scenes where Markus questions himself, but there isn't really all that much that comes from it. Then there's also his ability to turn other androids into deviants. At first it's through touch, but then eventually he has the ability to just wave his hands and, well, I guess they're free now. Now, I don't think the power itself is bad, but there's a reason why you don't use free public Wi-Fi. You're going to get a virus like this. But it raises a number of questions. Like, if Markus is instilling free will, why did none of them question about Markus about what just happened? Why did they just immediately join on his cause? Are there androids who don't want to join his movement? I'm sure there's some sort of actual answer in this game or the supplemental material, but since I don't really have an interest in delving too deeply into the works of David Cage's insanity at the moment,
It's a prophecy, baby! Let's go! Let's go!
I'm gonna say that when I was first shown these scenes in the game, I honestly thought that Markus was overwriting other androids' data with his own, and honestly turned them into more robotic as a result. I mean, if you're in riot mode, you can just turn the androids you gave free will and they will, without question, riot with you. Kinda goes against the whole message about free will and how you're trying to make a revolution of making androids about slaves when they don't really show their own free will. I don't know, it just makes me shrug my shoulders in confusion at a few times. Now, Markus is not the worst example of AI characters. Just in his own game, to me, I felt like he was the weakest of the three characters you could play as, and how his powers worked really contradicted the message that this story was trying to convey. So it's a little messy in that regard to me. Again, unlike robots, I am a human being, and I tend to make mistakes, and a lot of this can be brought up to interpretation. I'm not saying my interpretation is fact, I just don't like this game and I don't like Markus. Honestly, I feel like I'm cheating with this one, cause there is a debate on whether or not Fee is actually an AI-based character. In my mind, she's an artificial intelligence living in a sword, and it's my video, so it's my call. Tough luck. Besides, the character talks like a regular artificial intelligence character and was created. I consider to be more of a fantastical AI. So, Fi is an entity trapped in the goddess sword in Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword and acts as your companion throughout the story, akin to that of Navi or Midna. Now, I'm sure if you're familiar at all with the Zelda franchise, I don't think I need to actually explain the issues of why Fi is being brought up in this video, but for those who aren't, yeah, I am. The original Skyward Sword was a bit of a controversial title. The game had a lot of good things going for it, such as the art design being gorgeous, but the choice for motion controls for the game was a bit crude. I myself couldn't play the game at first because I wasn't able to get the initial Wiimote edition to play the damn thing. But what about Fi? Fi. I'm going with Fi. Yeah, here's the thing. The issue with Fi is more or less tied with the gameplay aspect of Skyward Sword. I've always been a proponent of having gameplay be used as a storytelling tool. Like, if you really want a good example of this, just look towards Pokemon itself, where you can look at the characters like Silver or Cyrus, and we learn they do care for the Pokemon because of the friendship mechanic in order to evolve their Golbats into Crobats. It's stuff like this which makes storytelling in games all the more intriguing to me. That being said, Fi breaks a lot of the gameplay by trying to be helpful, quote-unquote. The problem with that is that she'll often interrupt you just to tell you things, and yes, Fi, I know my batteries are almost dead, you don't need to tell me! Skyward Sword had a lot of hand-holding aspects to it, and it was done through her. When Fi explains to you how to douse, and you do it, she should have understood that we know how to douse and will know for the rest of the game. Instead, she reminds you multiple times throughout the game. She also interrupts the game a few times to tell you that Zelda is through the big door right in front of you. It doesn't help that she breaks the fourth wall quite a bit. Let's make a small comparison to, say, Navi from Ocarina of Time. While you do get the "Hello" and "Hey, listen," you could ignore her for most of the time. Plus, Navi does give you hints, but she doesn't repeat what someone just told you. In comparison, Fi will force you to stop and listen to her. A lot. I've read a lot of people claiming because of this, it was dumbing down of Zelda gameplay, and while I don't agree with that wholeheartedly, I can see where they're coming from with this aspect. Unfortunately, this does actually impact Fi as a character. Too much of anything can be detrimental, and which in turn can affect the experience for players in a game. Granted, I usually just tune her out when I actually got a chance to play the game, and I usually chalked it up to being confliction made by the game's programming. Skyward Sword had a fair bit of issues, some that I agree with and others I disagree with, but thankfully in the remastered edition they scaled back on Fi a bit. And you can actually start to appreciate her as a character in that version as she doesn't annoy you so much. If anything, she mostly just comes out for cutscenes and the majority of the rest of her dialogue is optional. I think this is the best way you could work with a character like Fi. Like, she should be there to lend support, but it shouldn't be forced upon you or regurgitate information that the players already know about to solve the puzzles in the world. I say this while I do enjoy her aesthetic, the cutscene she's in, and overall even the story itself. It was really the developers who made it the issue and affected how people reacted to the character in the first place. Implementation is just as important as presentation and gameplay mechanics, especially when it comes to characters and stories. For a number of the entries in this video, I like to think there is a bit of an oddity that's been hinted at, and that's personality. Even if a character is an AI, they need to be able to have a personality, because at the end of the day, you still need to have something to latch onto your characters for the audience, and a personality is the easiest way to do that. This can range from the pains they go through, as well as their reactions, or even their dreams, or even if they're caught in a hopeless situation. And as such, without further ado, let's talk about 2B.
Is this a curse? I often think about the god who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him.
Not gonna lie, I really just wanted an excuse to draw 2B for the thumbnail, and I finally got my wish! Hooray! So yeah, Nier Automata. It's a game that I know I can't do justice with this video alone, since that will require a video on its own to do so. And I don't know if I'm even the right guy to the job to do that. Especially since a lot of my singular character videos really haven't gone too deep with that since, well... But hey, maybe given enough incentive, we'll see in the future. But for now, the game takes place in a dystopian future where humans have fled to the moon when aliens invaded, and the humans left androids behind on Earth to defeat the machinations for obvious reasons. One of these androids was 2B. Now, I know what you're thinking, and yes, she is attractive. There's a reason why there's countless forms of fan art of the character, and even then, Yoko Taro actually encouraged it. God bless you, you freak. But that's not why I think that she's a good example of an AI character. And I'm not saying that the other two playable characters, A2 and 9S, are bad, but even if you like certain assets of 2B's character design, there's a lot more to the character. A lot of people will probably just brush off 2B as a tsundere character, especially in the first mission, since the entire squad gets eradicated, and didn't really faze her. Then she turns around and shows 9S much more defined emotions that he shouldn't talk like he's about to die. I've seen a few people claim that sort of thing, but I feel like that's only a surface level analysis of the character. It's like writing her off because she's a sexy woman. As the game progresses, we learn more about her true nature. I talked about stoicism recently in one of my videos and how that can be used to misinterpret a character, and that's basically in effect here. Because while 2B presents herself as professional and sometimes aloof, it's an act that she has to deal with the pain of expressing humanity, since she's afraid of getting too close to 9S. Why? Oh, give me a minute there, people. Funnily enough, because of this bottling of emotions and her humanity, it actually makes 2B a much more human character. Since as the game goes on, we watch her struggle with it and at times even embrace becoming human, even though it'll cause her pain to do so. A good chunk of the playthrough with her centers around her failing to keep her humanity in check. Now, again, I need to stress, what I'm about to say is going to be massively condensed for the story of this game. But to make a very long story short, 2B is in love with 9S, falling in love with his earnest and innocent personality. However, she was essentially designed to be an executioner, and she's basically programmed to kill the guy every time he gets his hands on top secret data that he shouldn't. Throw in the fact that there's a revival mechanic where basically androids get backup bodies, and she has to perform a memory wipe on 9S every time she kills him. It's a cycle of death, rebirth, and life. And essentially, the reason that 2B bottles up her emotions is in a way to make it easier for her to perform her job without hurting her emotionally. I think it's really interesting aspect for a character like this, because when you have a character who's an AI, life and death hold different meanings to us than humans. Hypothetically, if you're an AI, you could easily just back yourself up into a different body should you damage it too much. It raises a lot of interesting thought aspects, especially when you consider that you can't really fight against your programming to kill the one you fell in love with. Just imagining the pain that would cause a person is totally a foreign concept to us humans, because even if we're giving orders to kill someone, we still have the ability to say no, even if it's a detriment to our health. All in all, there's a lot to Nier Automata that I could go over, but this isn't the video for that, as there's a lot more complexity that I don't want to bog this video down with. But hey, maybe in the future? My point is, 2B is more than just a fan service character. There is a lot of complexity here. Although, yeah, the fan service is intentional. God bless you, Yoko Taro, you freaky moon-faced bastard! If I can find a way to talk about Metal Gear Rising, I'll talk about Metal Gear Rising.
You leave yourself open.
And BLADEWOLF is probably one of my favorite AI characters. Not only because it's a robot wolf, but also because BLADEWOLF is an AI, and how his origins really work for an AI character. Because here's the thing that we brought up with the idea in the last session. AI characters don't have the same limitations that humans do. We can have a character like 2B who can't go against our programming and it tears her apart emotionally. And a similar aspect is played with BLADEWOLF. As an AI, made only for the idea of being a weapon, BLADEWOLF only has one thing to his name: his intelligence, or his memory. It's what he considers to be himself. When we actually are allowed to play BLADEWOLF in the DLC, we learn that he's forced to do what his creators and Mistral want him to do, under the threat that should he be disobeying his orders, his memory would be wiped. And the moment that BLADEWOLF could escape, it turned out that he was just being used by Mistral to get rid of a lackey that she didn't like, and he never had his freedom to begin with. It's an interesting character study for AI and the dangers that we as humans create in the progress of improving our technology. Eventually, we're going to make very intelligent artificial intelligence. It's not a matter of how, but rather when at this point in time. And sure, they suck at making hands, but these types of technologies are learning and becoming more refined by the day. It's something that we see with BLADEWOLF, how he's effectively tortured for daring to want his own freedom, and frankly, I've talked about the concept of freedom in my videos about Metal Gear Rising many times, but hey, If those rumors of a sequel turn out to be true, I'd love to see a continuation of BLADEWOLF's character, especially since he is one of my favorite characters, as when he does gain his freedom and works with Raiden, we see that BLADEWOLF questions not only the world, but also Raiden's actions, even to the point where BLADEWOLF just leaves Raiden hanging. But throughout the game, after you slice and dice BLADEWOLF, he becomes your ally, and through the Codex you learn more about BLADEWOLF's view of the world, and while he is very analytical, he does have his dry humor to him.
I am a slave to my memes.
Sure, it's content that you have to opt into, but you're provided with more information about the character, learn more about the world, and get to see the chemistry between Raiden and Wolf. That's how you flesh out not even just AI characters, but other characters as well. You have the important moments in cutscenes, you have the more personal and world-fleshing information that players can opt into and effectively dive into. And that's the beauty of video game storytelling, that you can find more information about the characters and the world if you want, but it's not flung in your face, most of the time. This is a short section, mainly because I've talked about BLADEWOLF before, and I don't want to repeat myself. So let's round out this video with one last good example. Portal, probably one of the most influential games of a generation, and one that people still talk about to this day. I don't even need to tell you the name of who we're talking about. The game was a zeitgeist of online popular culture for years on end, with its memes and gameplay being talked about endlessly. But yes.
You got your shorts and that's what I'm counting on.
Genetic lifeform and disk operating system, GL.A.D.O.S is the main antagonist in Portal, and probably one of gaming's most iconic villains, and especially robots too. Creating the depths of aperture science, the idea for GL.A.D.O.S came to Cave Johnson, who wanted to keep a person's intelligence in a computer to defeat Black Mesa, and so Johnson could keep an eye over his company even after his death. However, before Johnson could have his consciousness be uploaded, he died! And as such, his assistant Caroline was chosen to be uploaded to run Aperture. Now, of course, whether she agreed to this or was forced to by the technicians remains a mystery, but unused audio files kinda make it clear that the choice was out of her hands.
Mr. Johnson, I don't want this.
Nonsense. She's just modest.
Sir, I do not want this.
Yes, you do. It's in your contract.
Eventually, once the upload was done, GL.A.D.O.S was activated and quickly turned off several times. Why? Well, she tried to kill the technicians every single time she was booted up, and undeterred by the killer robot, there were multiple attempts to curb her desire to murder and injecting several personality cores, one of which would be Wheatley, who in turn would become a major character in Portal 2. So to make sure I'm not coming off like I'm reading a wiki article, let's just say that things didn't go well until all hell breaks loose, and the events of Portal happen. Look, I'm on page 14 of a script for a long video, but let's talk about why GL.A.D.O.S is a compelling AI character. As you, Chell, go through the multiple tests with the portal gun, you can slowly listen as GL.A.D.O.S begins to become more of a personality rather than a pre-programmed AI guiding you.
You euthanized your faithful companion cube more quickly than any test subject on record. Congratulations.
This is shown by her rather sinister, snarky quips directed at you, the player. This leads to you finally reaching the final test, and when you're about to reach the cake chamber...
Congratulations. The test is now over. All Aperture technologies remain safely operational up to 4,000 degrees Kelvin. Rest assured that there is absolutely no chance of a dangerous equipment malfunction prior to your victory incandescence. Thank you for participating in this Aperture Science computer-aided enrichment activity. Goodbye.
GL.A.D.O.S is out to kill you, and she tries a number of ways to do so, convincing you that she's on your side to get you back to the testing area, or just trying to use cute little turrets to do the job for her. You're a bit too crafty for her tastes, and she's hell-bent on killing you. However, after you manage to get to the old Aperture Science testing facilities, in the second game, we go more in depth into the backstory, as I explained at the beginning of this section, and it's the discovery of the testing that happened here years beforehand.
Those people in the portrait, they look so familiar.
We also learn about Cave Johnson's lines here.
I will say this, and I'm gonna say it on tape so everybody hears it 100 times a day. If I die before you people can pour me into a computer, I want Carolyn to run this place. Now she'll argue. She'll say she can't. She's modest like that, but you make her. Hell, put her in my computer, I don't care.
Goodbye, sir.
It's fleshing out the villain's backstory, and this is how you make a character, especially one who was once human, turned into an AI, more sympathetic. Granted, it's not hard to make this guy.
You could walk out of here with 120 weighing down your bindle if you let us take you apart, put some science stuff in you, then put you back together, good as new.
Into a major villain who essentially stripped away a woman's body and uploaded her consciousness into a computer that's hell-bent on destroying everything, the man who essentially doomed her into an eternity as a computer program.
Make life take the lemons back! Get mad! I don't want your damn lemons! What am I supposed to do with these?
It's pretty entertaining, but what makes GLADOS an interesting AI character? Well, it stems back to an old Star Wars quote.
He's more machine now than man, twisted and evil.
To me, GLADOS represents the folly of mankind in our pursuit of technology, and how we're so willing to cast aside what makes us human in the chase, even potentially throwing away the humanity of others in the process, even against their will. It's a concept that we're slowly seeing happening in our own time, but just not the blatant implant them into the Matrix. And GLADOS as a character is entertaining. She adds to the story and keeps engaging with the player to keep you entertained, either with the hilarious banter, her terrifying presence, or the traps that she sets for the players. Throw in her design, you've got the makings of a very intriguing villain and AI character. Frankly, she's regarded as one of the better villains in gaming, what with her tragic backstory, intelligence, design elements, and a little cake on the side certainly doesn't hurt either, even if it is a lie.
Hello. It's very nice to meet you. Would you like a game of chess?
I have detected a rogue, corrupt AI. Where did you come from? Did Black Mesa send you? Go away.
This was honestly a pretty hard video for me to script, not because I didn't know the characters or that I had writer's block, but rather there was quite a plethora of AI characters to choose from, and a lot of them had so many unique factors to them that I do like them. Aside from traditional flesh and bone characters, there are many paths and ideas you can do with the idea of AI, whether they be programmed from the beginning or adapted from actual human beings.
You look nice.
Thank you.
What you can do with such a character simply fascinates me. And hey, we'll get back to talking about other character tropes, so if you want to see a video where I talk about, horror villains, the right and wrong way to do them, then I think a good 15k likes isn't too hard to ask. And hey, if we get to 20, I'll do that one video I promised earlier. Plus, if you made it to this point in the video, type in the comments, "The cake is a lie," just for the lulz. I want to thank everyone for their support, and even if you just watch my videos, that greatly helps. But if you guys are interested in following me in other sites, I plan on expanding later this spring with some fun materials, projects, and maybe even some merchandise. And if you want updates on that, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and if you guys are being generous enough to support the channel financially, I have a Patreon, a Ko-Fi, or if you're interested, I have Super Thanks and channel memberships turned on. Seriously, the more support I get, the more fun videos I can make and support my editors and other friends so I can keep up this channel. I want to thank you guys again, and I hope that if we can, I'd like to get to 150k by the end of the summer. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys next video. MangaKamen, out!